The wind howled outside the hospital window, a banshee's wail that echoed Ayeni's inner torments. The storm's fury seemed almost sentient, as if nature itself was protesting an evil that had been wrought. Inside the dimly lit room, the antiseptic smell did nothing to mask the stench of impending death. Ayeni sat rigid in his chair, his gaze fixed on Bola's frail form lying on the bed. Each rise and fall of her chest was a small victory against the darkness encroaching around them. Bola, Ayeni whispered, his voice barely breaking the sterile silence. He reached out, taking her cold hand in his. He said, I am so sorry. Bola's eyelids fluttered, and for a brief moment, her eyes filled with a mix of love and betrayal. Why, Ayeni? She murmured, her breath. Sorry, her voice barely more than a breath. Why? Why? Why did you do this? Ayeni's heart clenched. The weight of his guilt was almost unbearable. I had no choice, he stammered, his voice cracking. I was desperate. Tears welled up in Bola's eyes, spilling down her cheeks. She squeezed his hand weakly. Ayeni, you will surely pay for this, she said with a strange calmness in her voice. You will pay in ways you cannot imagine. Outside, the storm reached a fever pitch. The light flickered and then went out, plunging the room into darkness. Ayeni felt Bola's grip loosen, and then she was gone. Stone cold dead. The morning did a little to lift the pall of despair that hung over Ayeni and Bola's small apartment. Once a sanctuary of love and shared dreams, it had become a prison of unpaid bills and shattered hopes. The world seemed to close in on Ayeni as he stared at the eviction notice pinned to the fridge, a cruel reminder of their dire situation. Bola moved around the kitchen with a forced cheerfulness, her eyes betraying the weariness she tried to hide. She placed a cup of tea in front of Ayeni, her hands lingering on his shoulder. We'll find a way, my darling, she said softly, her voice filled with unwavering optimism. Ayeni could only manage a weak nod. The relentless pressure of their financial woes had worn him down to the bone. Each day felt like a battle he was losing. His redundancy had been the first blow, but the subsequent bankruptcy had been a knockout punch. Now, the once confident man felt like a hollow shell, haunted by the specter of his own failures. Ayeni watched his peers, particularly his old friend Okezi, with growing envy. Okezi's success was a constant reminder of what Ayeni had lost. The sight of Okezi's luxurious Mercedes-Benz car and the tales of his thriving business gnawed at Ayeni deepening his sense of inadequacy. One evening, Bola came home with a hesitant smile. "Chief Agu invited me to dinner again," she said, to sound casual. "He mentioned a business proposal." A surge of anger and dread coursed through Ayeni. He knew Chief Agu's reputation, a lecherous man who preyed on vulnerable women. The thought of Bola being around him made Ayeni's blood to boil. "You cannot go," he said firmly. Bola sighed, her shoulders slumping. "Ayeni, we need the money. Maybe this time it will be different." Ayeni scorned. He knew better. Chief Agu's intentions were never ever honorable and were never going to be. And the thought of Bola being subjected to his advances filled him with rage. Yet, what could he do? They were trapped, and the walls were closing faster and faster. Desperation led Ayeni to seek out Okezi. They met at a bar that reeked of stale beer and lost dreams. Okezi greeted Ayeni with a wide grin, his eyes gleaming with a predatory glint. "Long time, my friend," he said, clapping Ayeni on the back. "What brings you here?" Ayeni hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I need help, Okezi. I'm at the end of my rope." Okezi's grin widened. "I thought you might say that. Come, let's go and talk somewhere more private, okay?" They moved to a secluded booth, away from the prying eyes of people. Okezi leaned in, his voice low and conspirational. "There's a way to get everything you want, Ayeni. Wealth, power, success. But it comes at a price." Ayeni's heart pounded, and he asked, "What kind of price?" Okezi's expression turned serious, almost predatory. "Loyalty to the cult. You must pledge yourself to Satan and make a sacrifice." "Yeah! God forbid!" Ayeni recoiled, a chill running down his spine. "Sacrifice?" Okezi nodded. "Someone you love. The more you love them, the greater the reward." Hey! Ayeni felt a wave of nausea. "I can't do that." "Okay." Okezi shrugged, a knowing look in his eyes. "Think about it, Ayeni. You're already losing everything anyway. This is your chance to turn it all around." "Well, but the choice is yours. Have a lovely evening." The days following this meeting with Okezi were a blur of fear and indecision. Ayeni's desperation grew with each passing moment. He could see the strain on Bola's face, the weight of their struggles etched into her features. Despite her unwavering support, Ayeni felt like he was drowning, and Okezi's offer seemed like a lifeline. One night, as they sat in the darkness of their living room when NEPA had taken light, Ayeni turned to Bola, his voice barely a whisper. "I need to tell you something, my darling." Bola looked at him with concern in her eyes. "What is it, Ayeni?" He took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "I found a way to solve our problem, but it is not without consequences." "Okay." Bola listened with stunned silence as Ayeni explained everything. And when he finished, she stared at him, her face pale with shock. "You can't be serious," she said. "No, you can't do this." "I have to." Ayeni said with tears streaming down his face, "It is the only way." Hi. Bola's eyes filled with tears and she shook her head. "Ayeni, please. Please, Ayeni. There has to be another way. No, please. There has to be another way." But there wasn't. And deep down, they both knew it. The decision was made and their fate was sealed. The night of the ritual was cold and foreboding. The trees loomed like dark sentinels as Ayeni and Bola drove to the remote location that Okezi had given them. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting the world into an eerie darkness. They arrived at the clearing, where a group of men dressed in dark robes awaited them. A fire burned in the center, casting flickering shadows that danced around the circles. The air was thick with a sense of burning herbs, making something far more sinister. Okezi stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Are you ready?" Ayeni nodded, his heart pounding. Bola clung to his arms, her eyes wide with fear. "Remember," Okezi said with his voice low, "once you start, there is no turning back." Ayeni swallowed hard and stepped forward, pulling Bola with him. They knelt before the fire, and the chanting began. The words of foreign filled inaudible words, filled with dark powers, sent shivers down Ayeni's spine. As the ritual progressed, Ayeni felt a cold hand grip his heart. He glanced at Bola, and their eyes met. In that moment, he saw the love and betrayal in her gaze, and it nearly broke him. But he couldn't stop now. The ritual had really reached its climax, and Ayeni uttered the final words. A wave of darkness washed over them, and Bola collapsed, her body convulsing. Ayeni held her as she took her last breath. Her eyes filled with haunting sorrow. She said, "You will pay for this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Ayeni, you will surely pay." And then she was gone. Ayeni's newfound wealth came almost overnight. The transformation was staggering. Their small, dilapidated apartment was replaced by a luxurious house in an upscale neighborhood. Ayeni drove a new car, wore designer clothes, attended exclusive events. From the outside, it seemed like he had finally made it. But the cost was insidious. Bola's family was devastated by her sudden death, and their grief quickly turned into suspicion. Her parents especially were relentless in their quiet accusations. Their eyes filled with unspoken questions whenever Ayeni saw them. The guilt gnawed at him, a constant reminder of the price he had to pay for his success. Ayeni tried to move on, but Bola's presence lingered. He saw her in his dreams. He felt her in the shadows of his home. He heard her voice in the wind. The once comforting silence of his new life had become a tormenting echo chamber of regret and fear. The paparazzi, drawn to his sudden wealth, hounded him relentlessly. Every move he made was documented, every decision scrutinized. The pressure was immense, and Ayeni found himself crumbling under the weight of his deceit. Tinuke entered his life like a whirlwind, a beautiful and charismatic lady, and she was everything Ayeni thought he needed to forget Bola. Their whirlwind romance culminated in a lavish traditional wedding. But even in his happiest moments, Ayeni could feel Bola's ghostly presence, a silent witness to his betrayal. On their wedding night, as Ayeni lay exhausted and drunk on the opulence around him, Tinuke fled, taking with her a substantial portion of his wealth. The betrayal was a harsh blow, but it was nothing compared to the horror that awaited him. Ayeni's life spiraled into chaos. The betrayal of Tinuke was just the beginning. Bola's ghostly presence became more and more pronounced. Her appearances more frequent and terrifying. Ayeni found himself unable to sleep, haunted by nightmares and visions of his deceased wife. Bukola, a childhood friend, tried to offer him solace. She moved in with him, hoping to help him navigate his grief, but the course was relentless. Bukola fell ill shortly after moving in. Her health deteriorated rapidly and she passed away within weeks. Her death, another mark on Ayeni's soul. The pattern continued with Ngozi, a woman Ayeni briefly dated. She betrayed him, embezzling all the funds he made from a business, and she fled with it. And her betrayal was followed by a tragic accident. Her life cut short in a brutal car crash. Ayeni's mental state deteriorated rapidly. He became paranoid, distrustful of everyone around him. The once confident man was now a shadow of his former self, consumed with guilt and fear. Desperate for answers, Ayeni confronted Okezi. The meeting was tense, filled with accusations and denials. In a fit of rage, Ayeni killed Okezi, a desperate act that not only deepened his descent into madness, but filled his life with more turmoil, more fear. Ayeni's plea to the satanic cult was his last hope. The chief priest demanded a sacrifice that was horrifying. Ayeni had to sacrifice his mother to break the curse. It was a demand he could not meet. He fled, abandoning his luxurious life and seeking refuge on the streets. Homeless and destitute, Ayeni wandered the city, his mind fractured by the horrors he had endured. He barely recognized himself. His once proud figure now gaunt, a haunted shadow. Uche, a childhood friend and a devout born-again Christian, found Ayeni in this state, and she took him in, nursing him back to health. Her unwavering faith and compassion provided Ayeni with a glimmer of hope. And under Uche's guidance, Ayeni found solace in the evangelical church, and the community embraced him, offering forgiveness and a chance at redemption. Ayeni's confession to Bola's mother was a turning point, a moment of profound sorrow and catharsis. One day, his mother went to Bola's grave, and she wept and wept and wept sore at Bola's grave, begging for forgiveness. Ayeni's heart ached with regret and sorrow, but a small spark of hope flickered within him. Ayeni's journey towards redemption was fraught with challenges, but yet the church community provided the much needed support he needed. But man, the road to forgiveness was long and arduous. Ayeni dedicated himself to helping others. Fastings, prayers every day and every week, using his remaining wealth to support charitable causes and to rebuild his life. Uche remained a constant presence in his life. Her faith in Jesus Christ, a beacon of light in Ayeni's darkest moments. Together, they worked to mend the fractures in his soul, piece by piece. Ayeni's confession and the support of the church began to heal his fractured mind, and slowly but surely, he started to rebuild his life. But the memories of Bola and the horrors he had unleashed would never fully leave him. Each day was a struggle, but Ayeni was determined to make amends. The storm had passed, and a sense of peace settled over the city. Ayeni stood at Bola's grave, tears rolling down his cheeks. He wept. Oh, Bola, I am so sorry. I was wrong. I will never forget you. Please forgive me. As he turned to leave, he felt a strong breeze, as if Bola's spirit was offering a final farewell. Ayeni smiled, a bittersweet feeling of closure washing over him. The debt that he could not pay, the cost had been unimaginable. But now, he could move forward, but only one step at a time, seeking redemption for the rest of his days in his faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. This story is very sad, but it ended on a good note. That Ayeni was finally able to get redemption. No matter how hard things may seem, do not allow the pressures of life to turn you into another man and make you take actions that you will regret for the rest of your life. Nothing the devil has to offer is good. There are always consequences. Ayeni suffered. Even the Okezi, who introduced him into the cult, died an untimely death. The Bible tells us to be content. The Bible tells us to have hope in God, that He will not allow us to be tempted beyond our ability to bear, and that God is not unfaithful. Even when we feel faithless, God remains faithful. So if you're at that point where you are feeling at a crossroad to do something terrible to make money, to do some criminal act, or perhaps even to commit suicide, stop. Look unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of your faith. I assure you, there is hope for you. All things will work together for your good. And God, by the Holy Spirit, will not only comfort you, but will help you to chart your way through life and to become a success. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Support the channel to grow. Forward this story, the link, to all your friends and encourage them to also subscribe. I look forward to reading another story to you tomorrow. Enjoy your day.